little bit of a freestyle video. Last night I had a day which ended up with me not feeling great mentally, and I was toiling with myself for probably the best part of 3, 4 hours, and I was really not wanting to, how would I put this in a PG way, not revert back to external sources of dopamine, self soothing distractions in a way that can be consumed, if any of that makes sense. Um, so rather than having a smoke, having a drink, eating food, watching 5 hours of Netflix, and having like no sleep, and then having to wake up this morning to go and do a 10-hour shift, I went for a drive. And I think that sometimes we forget the importance of just having something to fall back on in order to create a little bit of space from that feeling, that urge, that desire to get rid of the negative emotion. Whereas what's a better idea is to have some space away from it in a healthy way so that you can then come back to it the next day, in a week, however long it needs, but you haven't done anything which pushes you further back away from the place that you want to be, Because I would have woken up this morning, my energy would have been low, my digestive system would have felt like shit, I wouldn't have had good sleep, I would have been dehydrated, I would have been pissed off with myself for doing whatever I would have done. There's always the risk of not making it to work and all of the domino effects that can come out of that. Whereas going for a drive last night and just having some space with myself, it cleared my head a lot. And then I came back, got back into bed, and I had like a really good night's sleep. And I was just reflecting on this a little bit today, and I feel like I've been pushing myself a lot recently. Like, I was looking over my calendar for the past few months, and well, I'd say like the past month and a half, 2 months, and I've been really pushing on all fronts. Like, I've been training really intense. I've been working 40, 50 hours a week every week. Some weeks I've done like 60, 65 hours. Um, Meal prep, making time for friends, starting doing content again. And there's only so much energy you've got, and I feel like I've really realized that I tend to get overwhelmed. And when I get overwhelmed through my own doing, it's not like somebody's come and just forced me to do all of this stuff. It's all self inflicted. I'm choosing to do it. And it's been really fascinating to exist in this space, but without reverting back to old behaviors, because it's actually given me like a very big pat on the back in terms of doing things when times are good, like habits, eating healthy, getting reacclimatized to the way that I actually want to live. I think I've got something coming out my nose. Getting acclimatized to the way that I actually want to live, and then being in that place of like being overwhelmed, it's much easier to remind myself of what I'm doing it for and where I'm at right now, than to just say fuck it, order loads of food, go and roll a doobski, have a drink, go and see this person, insert whatever negative behavior is there. because in the moment that's the easier thing. It actually gives you that complete distraction away from what's going on inside of here, right? But the day after, you have to live with that. And I think that after doing that for years and years and years of like, right, today is the day, and then you go back and then you have like 3 days of like behaving and being good, and then you're like, oh, now I deserve a treat. And then it's like 6 months goes by and you've not had a single day without doing something. And that's, the whole addiction cycle. Realizing that life can be stressful and life can be overwhelming, especially when you want to do shit. You want to change the way that you live, and you want to provide for a family that you don't even have yet. Like, I don't have kids, I don't have a wife, but I'm trying to build a brand and build a business, not only because it's a project that I want to do, it's because I want to have a good life for my future family. And it's overwhelming at times. And I think that it's a really good idea to push yourself to the point of where you break, where you're overwhelmed, where you want to quit, because that's the point when okay, I've actually found my limit. And it's always really good to every now and then just try and push through it to see if you've got a bigger capacity. Like, for me personally anyway, like some people might not want to do that. And when you have gotten to the point like I have, only just, like literally today, yesterday, and you get to that point where you can feel that overwhelm, you can feel that pressure, you can feel that, the worry, the uncertainty, the anxiety, if everything's getting on top of you, you can feel quite heavy and low, and your emotional system's not regulated, and it's I don't know, there's just something in that lets you know that you're doing as much as you can, but then you're also self-aware enough and not stubborn, because that's the thing, when you've been brought up in situations where it's normal, very normal, to see people use external ways of comforting and soothing, your subconscious isn't programmed on how to like talk to your friends about the fact that you're stressed, or see that people take rest periods before they get too tired. It's not a normal concept. It's something that I've had to learn and expose myself to and practice and experiment with. And I started this whole trying to build a business and wanting more out of my life. Like, I really genuinely started having this mindset when I was like 17 and a half, and I'm now 29. And there have been a lot of failed attempts in a lot of different dimensions. However, progress has been made. And as long as you are making progress and you are becoming more self-aware and you're slowly moving away from negative behaviors and old thinking patterns and bringing conscious attention to things that were unconscious, like, oh, that's why I have a tendency to go and do this when I'm stressed, or that's why when I'm feeling a little bit frustrated I isolate, or whatever it might be, it's really important that you just keep an eye on that. So yeah, this past 24 hours has been very interesting to reflect on that and feel that improvement within myself. Like, I got into bed last night and I was like thinking to myself, like, oh, you kind of went on a drive and you sat on like Instagram for like an hour and you didn't really do anything productive. And then I was like, hang on a minute, you could have done a handful of things which were infinitely not as productive as going for a drive and doom scrolling for an hour. Like, in the grand scheme of things, and today has just been, I think, like settling into that and giving myself a pat on the back, because if like worst case scenario now is, I don't speak to my friends for a day, I'm a little bit moody, and I go for a drive, compared to like 6 months of horrendous behavior and letting everything slide in terms of like friendships, relationships, work, projects, health, sleep, food, exercise, everything would go for like 4, 5, 6, 9, 12 months, just fucking gone. Away with the fairies, doing distracting behavior. Now it's like, you know, within 24 hours of feeling like that, I'm back to being the regulated, healthy, happy, productive, calm, conscious person who I actually am. And I think that's what I'm trying to get to, and I've circled around to, is I had to spend 12 years going from one extreme to the other and trying something, practicing, experimenting with this, learning myself, seeing how stressed I get and how much I can do before I get stressed, and is this stress or is it overwhelm, or am I underslept, or am I over exercising, or am I undernourished? And it's like piecing this all together, and nobody can teach you how to do this. It's something that you have to do for yourself through trial and error, especially if you weren't able to learn this kind of stuff from your caregivers. You know, it's really easy sometimes to look at people who are like in their mid-20s and they've got a successful business, or you know, they've got like a really good career and they knew what they wanted to do from being super young, and it's like, well, you might have not necessarily had the same start to life as what they did. So try not to compare. The thing that you should compare yourself with is the version of yourself that you are now compared to the version of yourself, you know, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And if there's improvements being made, then, you know, just keep doing the same shit. And I think that's the take home for me. This is just a verbal diary today. I'm going to have to come up with some fucking name for the video. But yeah, it's a really good, like, proud of yourself, you know? Like, all of the times that I've like had a stressful day and I've journaled, or I've been tired, so I've gone to sleep and rested, or I've had excess energy, so I've got my laptop out and recorded, or, you know, checked the charts. Little things that add up, so that when you are in a state of like, fucking hell, you know, my head's going upside down, you're so in tune with that new version of yourself. It's so much easier to bring yourself back to baseline. So if you are struggling with like addictions, or just fucking, you know, you've got stuff in your life that you don't want to do, like, just move the needle 1%, you know, like, have one day a week where you don't eat all of the fucking cake in the house. Have one day a week where you don't get that booty call that you know you shouldn't have, you know. Have one day a week where you don't sit for fucking 5 hours and watch fucking the same series on TV again. Go and do something that's a little bit difficult, that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. You might even have fun, you know. So yeah, progress and feeling proud. Very proud.